Okay.
Great. Well, welcome to this interview with the Kern Veterans Oral History Project. We're making this interview at the American Sound Recording Studios in Bakersfield, California, on October 3rd of 2012. With me is Aubrey Knight, our veteran. Aubrey, we want to put down for the record what your birth date was.
June 8, 1924.
Very good. And I'm the interviewer. I'm Gary Jamara. And
Don't worry about me.
okay, very good. So, just to set the parameters here, you're a World War II veteran,
Yes.
and what branch did you?
Army.
You were in the Army. And what was the highest rank you achieved while you were in the service?
T5.
T5, which is for someone.
Corporal.
Oh, corporal. Uh huh. And where did you serve?
ETO.
Uh huh. Very good. Now let's go back to the beginning of your service. When were you drafted, or did you enlist?
I was drafted.
And do you remember when you were drafted?
January 21st, 1923. That's when I reported.
1943?
43, I'm sorry.
Okay. January 21st, 1943.
1943.
Okay. And how old were you?
I'm 88.
How old were you when you reported for the draft?
18.
18 years old. Goodness. Okay. So what were your feelings when you were drafted?
I really didn't want to go, but I did go. I wanted to go into the Navy.
Yes.
But my parents wouldn't sign when I was 17, so I had to wait.
So you had to wait. In the meantime, you got drafted.
I got drafted.
Yeah. Okay. And were you living at home at the time?
Yes.
And where were you? What part of the country?
I was up in East Bakersfield.
Oh, East Bakersfield. So you're
Yes.
from Bakersfield. Were you
Yes.
born here in Bakersfield?
No, I was born in Medill, Oklahoma.
Okay. Very good. And how old were you when you came to Bakersfield?
I think my dad was. I was 8 or 9 years old. I don't.
Okay.
remember.
So you grew up.
I went to Rosedale Grammar School, Washington Junior High School, and East Bakersfield High School.
Okay. Well, that's where my mother and my aunt went to East Bakersfield.
EB.
Yes. So.
Mhm.
Okay. Very good. So. Now, you say you wanted to be in the Navy. Why was that?
Well, my friends, my buddy I ran around with, we both wanted to go into the Navy together.
I see.
We took the papers home. His folks signed, mine wouldn't.
And yours wouldn't. Okay. Do you recall your first days after your induction?
Yes. When we got our burr haircut and all the goodies
And where was that?
in Presidio, Monterey.
Okay. Very good. So you went through boot camp there?
No, I was only in Monterey about 3 days, and we shipped to Camp Stewart, Georgia.
Oh, very good. Oh, in Georgia. Okay.
Camp Stewart.
And so that's where you did your boot camp.
We took our boot camp there.
And how long? Do you recall how long that lasted?
I believe it was 6 weeks, and then we had to redo it for another 6 weeks, I believe.
And was that typical?
Well, I
As
don't
far as
know
you
what
know?
happened. We just had to go through it twice.
Okay. And after that, you reported to a unit, a division, or
Yes, they assigned us to the my permanent outfit,
which was
357th Anti-Aircraft Searchlight Battalion.
okay. Very good. Okay. Do you remember any of your instructors at boot camp?
Not really.
Not really.
They changed us around quite a while.
And
Quite a lot.
what was the experience like overall? Was it extremely difficult? Was it
No,
something you could handle, or?
After boot camp, we went out in the field. We lived in tents all the time during our field training.
This was after boot camp.
After boot camp,
Mhm.
all of our training we lived in tents
Okay.
all over Georgia.
And interesting. And how long did that last? Do you recall?
I don't really remember the exact time.
A couple of months.
But
you
we
think,
went
or-
from Oh, it's longer than that.
Okay.
Yes, we were in constant training until we went overseas.
Well, now you were assigned into a anti-aircraft unit when you operated a Searchlight?
No, I didn't actually. I went into after a while, I went into the medical detachment. I got out of they assigned me to truck driving, which I didn't like. So I transferred into the medical detachment. And then I took training then as a surgical technician.
I see.
And then another opening came up, dental technician, so I took it, and that's where I did all my service and as a dental technician.
I see. But did you go through? Did you during the course of your boot camp and subsequently did you do any training that would the type of which a regular infantryman would do it?
Regular infantry training, yes.
You did weapons training and
all of that. We had to do that in our basic training.
Okay, very good. So you learned how to shoot. Were you already somebody who knew how to shoot?
Oh yes, we had to shoot everything.
Okay, very good. Okay, so when were you shipped overseas?
It was I believe it was 1944, I believe.
Okay.
Was the time.
Do you remember what season? Was it the summer?
It was fall of the year.
Fall.
Yes.
Okay.
We ended up in England at the beginning of the winter time.
Okay, so you first went to England. You didn't go directly. This was after D-Day, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was after D-Day.
So you did not go directly to the continent. You went to England first.
Went to England first. We stayed there, a little more training,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went over and we landed in Le Havre, France.
In Le Havre, okay.
Normandy,
Mm-hmm.
same place,
Mm-hmm.
and went over the side of the ships just like the regular combat troops did. About 3 o'clock in the morning.
You did so onto a cargo net into a landing craft.
Into the landing craft.
Uh-huh.
And then went in and.
Was it one of the smaller ones in LCVP, or
it was,
or do you recall?
It held quite a few men. I don't remember what. It was a regular landing craft.
Okay. Did it beach on a beach, or did it go to a dock?
They landed on the beach.
They landed on the beach.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Le Havre, right? Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Okay, that would be just to the east of the Normandy landing beach,
Yes.
a little bit.
Right. Yes.
And as a matter of fact, that was actually where Rommel and a lot of the German generals thought we really were going to invade, even after we'd invaded into Normandy.
Yeah.
That's where they were convinced for quite a while that was possibly just a diversion, and the real landing would come where you ended up coming.
Right.
Okay. What was it like when you got there? Well, let me just back up to when you were still in Britain. Now you're trained as a dental technician in the Army.
But I didn't really serve as we didn't do our field training until after we got into France. That's when we really set up and started doing our dental. No, in the United States, I worked in the hospitals there with my captain.
I see.
And took care of all the men in the company, battalion rather.
I see, but you going back to when you were in England, you said you continued to do training. Well, you were a dental technician. What kind of training were you? Were you continue to do that type of training, or
I was actually doing my work there.
Okay.
Yes, we were working in the hospital there for 6 weeks or so, and then we went overseas.
So soldiers that were American soldiers, presumably that were over there that needed dental work or something, you'd help out.
Right.
You'd help the dentists.
I was the only dental technician in the battalion.
I see. And the battalion, what was the battalion? So was the battalion part of a division, or?
No, that's all we were.
It's a support.
I forget which
it's a
division
freestanding
we were attached to, but
okay.
It was. I think we had 1,025 men or something in our outfit.
So the battalion was like a medical battalion?
No.
What was it? Some sort of support?
No, there was only 14 medics serving the whole battalion.
Was it an infantry battalion?
Searchlight battalion.
Oh, the Searchlight battalion. I'm sorry. You said that you changed, so I get.
Anti-aircraft Searchlight battalion.
I got it. Very good. And the Searchlight battalion would work in conjunction with anti-aircraft units. Is that how it worked?
the radar guided both the searchlight and the radar. Searchlight and anti-aircraft worked off of the radar. When the radar was operation, they were all on the plane at one time as it would go over.
I see.
They flipped the lights on, the guns were trained, the lights were trained right on the planes.
But the actual anti-aircraft weapons, they would be in a separate unit, a separate battalion or something,
No,
as yours?
we had guns and lights together. We had 4 companies,
I see.
A, B, C, and D. And each one was separated out in the field. They were all at different intervals.
Mm-hmm.
And they had so many searchlights, they had so many anti-aircraft.
I see.
And when the radar went on, everything was aimed at the plane.
Okay. Well, of course, at that time, the Luftwaffe wasn't flying that many sorties. At least that's the story that we hear. So when you got over into Europe and saw action, did you have much of an opportunity to engage enemy aircraft?
I'm sure we did.
Uh-huh.
I didn't keep up with their action.
Uh-huh.
You know, we were always just behind the lines, not right on the front lines.
I see. You were behind the line, so you weren't able
Always
to...
right, just behind the lines, enough that we could use our weapons and our lights.
I see. Okay. Very good. All right. So you made it to France, and you said you continue to do field training there or your unit.
Well, our training,
Uh-huh.
we were we were being in action at that time. I mean, the guns were all. We were in service, yes. I mean, everything was going on. Our training was over, except for what we were actually doing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you went. So from that point in time, when you went over to France, then you went immediately to the front lines, or
We're right behind the lines.
right behind the lines?
They were still in France when we got there. Yes.
They were still in France.
The Germans were still in France.
And do you remember what city or what area of France you were at the beginning, or not?
I don't recall.
Don't recall.
I have a little book someplace at home that gives everything we did from the time we were activated until we were discharged, but I can't find my book.
You can't?
It gave every man's name and everything in there and what we did and where we went, but I can't find it. I told Sandra I wanted to find it, but I couldn't.
Now, as part of that, your battalion, was it attached to one of the armies, the first or the third?
Attached to the 3rd Army, along with the 9th Air Force.
Okay, I see. Very good. Okay. Now, during this period of time, were you able to keep in touch with your family by writing them, or
Writing.
Uh-huh.
We had what we called, the only contact we had was V-mail. It's where you write a letter and then reduce it down to a little thing. You know, it was, I guess now you call it photographed or whatever you want to call the little mail, the way they did it then.
I see. And did you write frequently home, or?
Oh yeah, about 2 or 3 times a week.
And did you get mail back?
Oh yes. Sometimes I had to wait a week or so to get it, but we got it.
How long did it take from the time? Did you get it? Well, you must have seen the date on the letter. How long did it take?
Sometimes 2 weeks,
Uh-huh.
maybe less, a little less, but mostly a week or 2 it would take.
That's all, huh?
It was fairly good service.
Yeah, that is good. And do you remember what the food was like?
K rations, C rations, mostly.
Really?
Yes.
So you didn't get there was not much mess facility in terms of hot food and that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, we had a lot of hot meals, but our main thing was K rations and C rations.
And how did you like them?
Well, they were fine.
They were okay.
They were fine.
Okay. And okay. Did you always have plenty of supplies, whatever you needed? I guess.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And what did you and your fellow soldiers do for entertainment? Did you have any time to do?
We played cards, hearts, played pinochle, hearts. We had different movies that they would show sometimes when we were stationed. If we were stationed for a little while in one spot, we'd have movies.
Mm-hmm. And did you ever get leave while you were there?
We could, when I was on up into Germany, after we reached Germany, yes, we could take a 3-day pass or so and go back into Belgium or Holland, wherever we would like to go.
Uh-huh. And did you ever have an opportunity to meet any of the local people or any of the places you served? Or
I could meet them, but I couldn't speak their language.
And you couldn't speak their language, so it didn't do much good, huh?
No. Do a little pointing.
Okay. Very good. Do you recall any particular humorous or unusual event while you were serving during this time? Anything that sticks up in your mind?
Not really.
Okay. Did you keep photographs from?
I took a lot of photographs.
Mm-hmm. You still have them?
There's some place at home.
There's some place
tucked away. I have pictures of me sitting on the Luftwaffe. Some of them that were shot down.
Really?
Yes.
Uh-huh. So, what would a typical day be like for you while you're over there?
Pardon?
What would a typical day be like for you? When would you get up? What would your duties be during the course of a typical day?
Mostly report for work.
Uh-huh.
And like I say, at night we'd play pinochle or cards or something. And just mostly, when we had chance, we would sightsee,
Uh-huh.
view the country.
Okay, but on a typical day, you'd be assisting a dentist.
Yes, my regular day was 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm. Now, some of the dental work you do, did it ever have to do with any kind of treatment that a soldier might get as a result of wounds he might have received?
No, we were lucky. We were lucky that no one was actually injured in my outfit, but it was a constant job, keeping up with all the men.
Right.
We'd go from one company, stay with them till we finished it, and then we'd go to the next company, stay with them. And so we were constantly on the move, the captain and I.
So the captain was the dentist?
Yes.
What was his name?
William J. Missoula.
And where was he from?
He was from Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. And was he a dentist before he entered the service?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Probably, huh?
He was a middle-aged man.
I see. And what was your working relationship with him like?
Good, very good. He and I had our own vehicle. We did a lot of sightseeing. He and I, when we weren't working, we'd go different places and look. And
what was that, a Jeep?
A Jeep, yes.
Okay. And how did you get fuel for the Jeep? I'm just wondering. They must have had a requisition? Since you already had the duties of going around, you probably had available supplies.
When we were different companies, each one had their own fuel, and we would fuel up with them. When we were caught up with everyone, we would attach to the headquarters battery, and we were always with headquarters, but we would go out to the different batteries when we had to, or different companies when we had to do our work.
Uh-huh. I see. And so you would only pretty much see or treat soldiers that were in your battalion.
That's all. Our own.
You never had occasion to
no.
On a sort of overflow basis to have anybody else come in.
No, we didn't do anyone except our own men.
Okay. So, so you were always a little bit behind the line, but your unit obviously had to be fairly close to the line because otherwise there's no point.
We were just a few miles behind the lines.
I see. And so do you know some of any of the battles or major engagements that your unit was, in support of?
We were in on the Rhine River crossing when they first crossed the Rhine River.
Uh-huh.
And we were in the Argonne Forest when they were trapped there. We were trapped there for a while. And
in the Ardennes, you mean?
Yes, we were there.
Oh, you were trapped there during the battle, what we know as the Battle of the Bulge, or the Ardennes?
Ran out of gas. That's where we were.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
very good.
That's how we were right there with them. Yes.
So was this Bastogne or another area?
I've been to Bastogne.
Pardon me?
Yes, we were in Bastogne, but not while the actual battle was going on. We'd come on through there.
Oh, you came through there later or before?
Well, right behind it, yes.
Right behind it?
Yes.
Okay, so is this part of when Patton's Third Army came to relieve the
Yeah.
you were part of that or behind that?
We were just behind him. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what was it? Do you remember what the city was, the condition of the Bastogne was like when you got there? I imagine it was quite
A lot of rubble.
just rubble.
A lot of rubble. Some of the towns, the little town of Aachen, Germany, I don't think there was a whole brick left, because we would attack, Germans would counterattack, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, that was quite a big battle actually to take Aachen, and that actually was quite a large city. So,
It
but when you
was.
saw it, was just a lot of rubble.
There was I believe that was a major railroad center right there in Aachen, and that's the reason there was so much fighting going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a city right near the border of France.
Right.
So it was one of the first major
Right.
cities, maybe the
Right.
first major city that was taken by the Americans during that time. Okay, interesting. Do you remember? Were you qualified to use any of the anti-aircraft weapons? Did you ever train on any of those? You never did.
No, as soon as basic was over, I transferred into the medics and into the dental, and that was the end of my gunfighting.
And when you traveled around, did you take weapons with you or not, or you felt
No,
like you were in
medical
secure
attachment.
areas? And
We did not carry a weapon.
did you weren't even issued a weapon,
No.
probably not
No.
even
No, we weren't.
the captain either didn't have a
No.
pistol or
No.
anything.
No one in the medical attachment had weapons.
I see. Okay. Did you wear on your uniform or your any, was there any particular insignia or anything that singled you out as a medical personnel as opposed to a combat personnel?
Just our buttons on our lapel was, the regular medical lapel button.
I see. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So you were a part of the Rhine River crossing. Was that potentially? I know the 90th Division was one of the divisions that went across. Was that? Does that ring a bell?
No.
You
Like
don't
I say,
remember?
we were behind the lines. We weren't right on the crossing, but we were close enough that we lit up for they were in on the lighting and ready to fight or to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if we did or not.
Well, I know a lot of times during combat, I'm not sure about your unit, but I know a lot of times in ground combat, anti-aircraft units were actually used in support of the ground operation, not just against aircraft, but against ground targets, against,
Well, we were
Did you do that as well?
We were strictly for the air.
Strictly for the air.
Strictly for the air.
Did not.
Lights in any aircraft were strictly for the air.
Okay, so as far as you know, they never did anything like that.
No.
And sometimes when they needed extra firepower, they would bring up because you had a lot of automatic weapons. You had fast firing,
Right.
probably quad 20s and 50 calibers, quad 50 calibers, and that they had a 90 millimeters and
Right.
that sort of thing.
Right.
They'd bring that all in to help
Right.
suppress fire or to.
But even
But you never did that, as far as you know.
overseas, the companies were still spread out. We weren't as a group. We were spread out,
Right.
different companies in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
And what actually went on with them, I can't say.
I see. Now, were you? It sounds as though were you very conscious of being part of a bigger entity like the Third Army or something like that? Were you conscious of your higher leadership, or are you pretty much just involved in your day-to-day activity?
Mostly just with our battalion. If I don't really understand what you mean.
Well, I mean, in retrospect, someone may say, well, how did it feel to be part of the Third Army? Was that something that you were conscious of at the time? Well, I'm part of this great fighting organization, or you served under Patton? Obviously, the Third Army. I guess if we haven't mentioned it already, Patton was the commander of the Third Army,
right?
And a lot of people wouldn't recognize that name. So, were you conscious of being under
Yes.
his leadership or something
Yes.
like that?
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, he wasn't just somebody that was far away that
No.
didn't affect. Okay,
No.
okay. So you still felt a part of a certain esprit de corps to being part of that group. That.
Right.
All right. So after the Rhine crossing, do you recall your progress after that?
we just kept moving forwards. All I know till we, I think where we ended up was a little town of Eschwege, Germany. That we were there for quite a while, and we went from there. I believe it was from there we could go take our leaves and go back into Belgium and Holland. There, we were stationed there for a while after the war.
I see. And where do you remember where in Germany Eschwege was?
Not really.
Not really. I imagine once you cross the Rhine, things moved pretty quickly, right?
Did, yes.
They pretty much were the German army had pretty much collapsed by that time, and
Right.
yeah. Okay. Interesting. And okay, so you continue to be after the end of the war. You stayed over there for how long?
I came home. I believe it was in April of '46.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't recall the exact date. Like I say, I have a book at home that tells me everything. I tried to find it, but I couldn't find it to bring it down so I would have all the answers.
So you stayed over there, and then when you returned to the United States, you immediately were discharged, or
Right. We ended up in New Jersey,
Uh-huh.
and we were discharged then at Fort MacArthur, I believe.
And what port did you leave out of Europe? Do you remember?
I believe it was Le Havre, France.
Le Havre again?
Le
From
Havre.
where you the same place you came in?
Yeah, close to it, yes.
Close to it. Okay. Yeah, in the one case you came out on the beach.
Right.
This other one you actually probably
Right.
got on a
Yeah.
ship more conventionally, right?
Right.
Okay, I see. And just as a matter of curiosity, what were the transatlantic crossings like?
Rough.
Really?
That's
Both ways?
In 1946, the Atlantic was very rough.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, very rough. Came home on an old victory ship.
On a victory ship?
On an old victory ship.
Yeah, which is basically really a cargo ship, right?
Right, more or less.
Yeah,
Yes.
a fast cargo ship.
Yeah.
People know of the Liberty ships. The victory ships were similar. They didn't make as many of them, but they were the same kind of mass produced, but they were a
Right.
little bit better, a little bit faster than the Liberty ships, but they were not meant for
Not as a troop carrier.
not as troop carriers.
No, no.
What kind of facilities did you have on the?
We
you have bunks? Did you have?
We had just bunks. I think there was 3 high, 3 deckers.
Uh-huh.
And
And did it have mess facilities?
oh yes,
Huh?
but I didn't eat. It was,
You didn't
I
eat?
I was sick before we undocked the boat, and I stayed sick for 9 days.
And that was the length of your trip? 9
That
days?
was 9 days and nights.
Oh my goodness. And you couldn't eat that whole time?
Well, I tried.
You
Right
had
at
to
the
go
very
with
end, I tried to eat a little.
Mm-hmm.
I'd get to the mess hall though, and up going into the mess hall, and the stench of the food would coming up out of the mess. It was all start over again. But I wasn't the only one.
Really?
Yes.
Now, when you came back, did you come back with your unit or more or less singly?
As a unit.
Uh-huh.
As a unit.
And how much of your unit was on that one ship? Do you remember? Probably not, but
I really don't know.
uh-huh.
I
You remember
really
how
don't
many
know.
went over, came back with you?
No.
Did you come back with your captain, or did he come separately?
No, the captain. He went on ahead of us.
I see.
I guess he came on a different way.
Okay. And I forgot to ask you, when you shipped from the United States over to England back in the fall of 1944, what port did you leave? Did you say already what port you
It
left?
was in New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
And do you recall what kind of a ship was your
It
transport?
was the USS Cristobal.
USS Cristobal.
Cristobal. It was a converted luxury liner, or a converted liner.
Ocean liner?
Passenger liner.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay. So was your trip to Europe as eventful or difficult as the one back?
No,
It wasn't.
absolutely not. No,
Yeah, it wasn't.
No, it was nice.
Okay.
I didn't even get sick on it.
You didn't get it sick, huh? Okay. Right. And do you remember what port you came into? Was it Liverpool, possibly, when you came into England?
I
Yeah.
believe it was Liverpool.
Okay.
No, Plymouth.
Oh, it was Plymouth.
Plymouth.
Okay, so it was on the channel. It was in
Plymouth,
the English
England.
Channel there. Okay.
Mhm.
Very good. Interesting. Okay.
When we went across the channel over to France, that was very rough. That English Channel is very rough.
Okay.
So.
And do you recall you were on a ship? You were on another ship when you did that?
Yes, it was. I don't know what kind it was.
But you came over the cargo net, like you said.
Yes.
Had you ever done that before?
No. Went over full field pack, just ready for combat, I guess you'd call it.
And the landing craft that you went into, was it bobbing and weaving?
Yes. The only time you get onto it is when they would come up, the waves would bring the cargo landing craft into the ship, and when it did, you had to jump, and it was very dangerous. If you had got caught in between, you'd been crushed.
But you'd never done that before?
No.
And anybody else in your unit? You were with your unit?
Yes, we all went over. Yes.
All went over for the first time.
So yes.
And did anybody not make it? Did anyone miss?
No, everyone made it.
Everyone made it, and they're all in their full field pack.
Everyone went over as a full field pack.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Now you said you were over in France in November of 44. I guess it would be by November of 1944. You would have been in France, right? Or were you still in Britain? Were you still in Britain at that time? Do you recall?
I don't really recall.
I
know there was snow on the ground in France when we hit, because we had to sleep in pup tents. After we'd landed there, we went in a mile or two, and we pitched pup tents, and that's where we slept.
Okay, so maybe it was December, but well, the reason why I ask is we're just a few weeks away from an election, and so in November of 1944 there would have been an election. Were you able to vote?
No.
Now you probably were too young at the time, right?
I was 18.
So, and until much later you had to be 21. But do you know if people were able to vote over there at the time? That's what I'm curious.
Not that I know of.
You don't know.
I don't know if anyone voted or not.
If that was something that soldiers were able to do.
I don't recall. I don't know if they did or not.
You don't know. Now you were only at this time, you were still 18, or were you 19 by now?
Probably 19.
Wait, what year, you told me before what year you were born, but I can't remember now. What was that?
When I was born.
You were born in June of
1924.
1924.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you would have been 20 by then.
Well, around 20.
Yeah.
I don't recall.
Yeah, June of 1944, you would have been 20.
Yeah. Yes, because I was still 21 when I came home.
Okay. So, so was that something? Were you interested in politics at all at the time?
No.
Not at all.
None at all.
And do you know, when you were either before you left or when you got back? Do you know, was your family interested in anything political or that? Like when my question is more. Well, let's concentrate more, because when you got back, it was after the war. But during the war, the first couple of years of the war, before you were drafted, you were here in the United States on the home front. I think we tend to think of that period of time as a period of tremendous national unity and everything. And I'm just wondering, how accurate is that? Were people still interested in political things the way they are maybe today, or at that time, or was that something you too young to really be aware of that?
I imagine I was too young to even consider
that's something you didn't.
Politics.
You were in high school and just.
I was still in high school.
Okay. And you said you went to East Bakersfield High School.
East Bakersfield High School.
So you must have been one of the first classes of East Bakersfield.
The second year.
The second year. Yeah.
Yes, the second year of EB.
Okay. Yeah, so my aunt was in the first class, Betty Jean Kern. I don't know if you know the Kerns at the time, but yeah.
Well, all the big trees that were at EB, they were just small saplings when I first started there.
Very interesting.
Very small trees.
Yes.
Now, I think they've taken them all down now.
Bakersfield's changed quite a bit since then.
Oh, yes.
And at that time, that was way on the edge of town, right? Basically, right? East Bakersfield, well, that was...
Right there by the hospital, yes.
Uh-huh.
It was very, very small.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So, when you got back, what was that like?
Glad to get home.
You were glad to get home? You arrived again, let's see, you said you left out of New Jersey. When you arrived back was where? What port when you came back?
Fort MacArthur.
Fort MacArthur, which is where?
down near L.A.
Oh, you shipped through the Panama Canal?
They flew us. No.
Oh, so
they
where did you?
flew us from New Jersey to Fort MacArthur.
Oh, so when you returned, you came back to New Jersey as well.
Right.
Okay, and then you flew all the. Oh, so you got to fly
us home
back.
from New Jersey to
Uh-huh.
L.A.
Had you flown before?
No.
That was the first time you ever been on an airplane?
Well, maybe, I think a long time ago, I went and took a little ride in a local airplane where they were giving rides.
Right.
And I think that's the only time I flew. I didn't fly any overseas, no.
Okay, so that was the first time, your first experience on a long.
On a large plane.
What was that like?
Yeah, it was all right.
It was okay.
No C-47.
Right.
No C-47.
Did it have seats, or you
no
just had
seats,
to?
no.
Just had to
Sit around on the floor.
And you must have made a couple of stop or two along the way, or did
No,
you?
it was a direct flight.
It was a direct flight all the way.
Direct flight.
Goodness, that must have taken quite a while, though, huh?
I don't know.
It's been a long time, though.
It's been a long time.
Who remembers? So, Fort MacArthur is now, we're in Los Angeles area, you said?
It's down in that area.
Okay, I see. And from there, how did you get back to Bakersfield?
Bus.
A bus. And was anyone there to greet you when you got off? Your family or anything?
Not in L.A., no.
I mean, when you came back to Bakersfield, though, did they know you were going to get here when you were going to arrive, or you just got here
No, we
and
just
made your way back home, and
No one knew
no one knew until you
till I
walked in
came-
the door?
till I came home.
Uh-huh. And when you came home, was there anyone there at the time? Were your
My
parents?
mother, I was with my mother.
Uh-huh. And so was she surprised to see you?
Oh, yes, she's always glad to see us.
Now, when you say us, did you have siblings?
No.
No? You were the
No,
only-
yes, I did too.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter was born while I was over in England.
Your oldest.
My daughter, my first daughter, was born when I was in England.
Oh.
I was married at 18. I got married at 18.
Oh, I see.
I was married all the time I was in service.
Oh, very interesting. Interesting. I didn't think about that. Now, since you were married, did that qualify you for? Did you get was your pay different than a single person?
Yes. Half of my pay I went home as a support, family support.
I see.
I think she received $50 a month or something, and I kept 25, something like that.
So did that pay go directly to her, or did it go to you and then you had to send it
No,
back?
it went directly to her.
Okay.
Directly to her.
But do you know if you'd been single, would you have received the same amount of pay?
I would have received half of my pay went to the wife.
I see.
And I got to keep half of it, which was 25 a month.
I see. Okay.
Wasn't much money.
Not a lot.
Not,
Of course, things were much cheaper in those days, weren't
very
they?
much cheaper then. Very much cheaper. Yes. Cigarettes then $50, 50 cents a carton. That's
A
what
carton?
they were, a carton.
Yeah.
If you bought them from the PX.
So you got married. Was this a high school sweetheart of yours?
Oh yes.
Uh-huh.
Oh yes.
But getting back to my original question, I actually was asking, did you have any brothers and sisters?
I have, yes, several.
Oh,
I had 2 brothers and 3 sisters.
And did any of the brothers serve?
My oldest brother served in the Army, and then later on my youngest brother served in the Navy.
And the one that served in the Army, that would have been during the World War II as well?
No, he went to Pacific, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, he was World War II, yes.
Uh-huh. Is he still alive, or is he passed?
No, he passed away.
Uh-huh. Do you know where he served in the Pacific?
Not really.
So when you came back...
I think he was in Iwo Jima, someplace over in there.
Okay, but it was in the Army.
He was in the Army.
You don't remember which unit he was in or anything like that?
I have no idea.
You came back, you didn't really talk about that type of stuff?
Neither one of us talk about it.
At all?
No.
Interesting. Just got on with your life when you came back?
Got home. I'm glad to get home.
Just glad to get home. And what did you do when you got back to Bakersfield?
I went to work for an oil company.
Okay.
Superior Oil Company.
Okay.
I worked with them 38 years, and then they sold to Mobil Oil, and I worked with them 2 years, and I retired in 1986.
Interesting. Okay, so you never had anything to do with the dental technician again the rest of your life?
No. I had a chance. I could have went on to school and really been a dental technician in civilian life, but I didn't take it.
Yeah, it was not something you were interested in?
No.
You'd done enough of that, huh?
I wanted to get home.
Oh, I see. That would have been, if you'd done that. That would have been a benefit from the.
Yeah, it had been a training program with the Army.
And then you would have had to stay on longer, or
till I finished my training.
Oh, I see. But that would have meant that you would have had to stay away from home longer.
Right.
Okay. Oh goodness. This was off. Interesting. Okay. So, and what did you do when you were with Superior Oil? At least at the beginning, what was your?
I was started in as a warehouseman.
Okay.
I worked there, I think, 7 years, and then I left them and I went to work in town at a valve repair shop, and I worked there about 6 months, and then I went back to Superior Oil.
I see.
And stayed with them.
Do you remember how you got the job to begin with? Did you just go apply, or
with Superior Oil?
Yeah, or did you know somebody?
My wife's stepfather was a foreman there, and he got me on.
I see. Interesting. Do you feel there's any experience that you had during your training or experience in the military that helped you in your civilian job or anything, or was it completely apples and oranges?
No, it did not help me.
It didn't help you?
No.
And how do you look back on those years? Do you look back in fondness? Do you think about it very much, or is it just something that happened in your life, or what?
Yes, I still think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I did it, but I wouldn't want to go through it again.
Sure. Did you keep in contact with any of your fellow servicemen from that time?
Only one, and he lived up in Lodi. He was a good friend of mine in the Army.
What was his name?
He's passed away now, too.
What was his name?
Seibel, Walter Seibel.
Walter Seibel?
Walter Seibel.
And he's obviously in the same battalion as you?
He was not in, he was in the medics with me. He came in later. He was transferred in later.
I see. So he didn't train with you, but he came into your unit later?
No, he transferred in.
I see. Very good. But he lived in Lodi. Did you ever have the opportunity to go see him, or he come to see you, or anything like that?
In probably 1980, I was working out of Rio Vista, and I had a chance to run over to Lodi, which is just a few miles, and I got to see him for a few hours, and that's the only time that I've seen him.
So between 1945 or 46 and 1980, you'd never seen him?
No.
Interesting.
No.
What did he do? He was in the medical.
He was in the medical with me as just a surgical technician.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you have an opportunity. Is there opportunity to get on this recording? I guess anything you'd like to say about your experiences or your remembrances of that period of time. Is there anything that comes to your mind about what is there anything you've been thinking about, or you want to share with?
Nothing really, no more than we've talked already.
Okay.
Like I say, I'm glad I served, but I wouldn't want to do it again.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for sharing your time with us and sharing your experiences for this historical record. And I really appreciate you taking the time
to do it. Very glad I was able to do it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Aubrey.
Mm-hmm.
Shake his hand.